Hey guys, welcome back to our last conversation. This is part two. How did you enjoy that? Wow, I'm already wondering. Woo! It was a lot. It was a lot. So you guys are dealing with celibacy. If you're a virgin, not a virgin, you have 10 kids, 8 kids.
No, it's true.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Celibacy is still available for you.
It's a personal journey.
Rejection as well. We are going to talk about it a bit more later on, but as we've heard from Dana, she said rejection is not about you, it's about the person. It's the capacity in which they can hold you and what you have inside of you and even within themselves. So we're going to journey from them. We're going to go right to Lioness Tamar. We're going to be talking about child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence. Guys, I know it's a very sensitive topic, so if there's any triggers, please do bear with us, but we want you to really identify with the stories and the things that's been said today, so that if there's anything that that you're struggling with, you're dealing with, as they've given you their ways to contact them, and follow them, and just be free, be whole, be you. There's love out there for you. Okay, so Lioness, take us away.
Thank you very much. Just following off what you just said, in terms of anyone that may hear particularly my story and feeling triggered.
Yes.
So if it's making you feel really uncomfortable, basically, you can either look away, or if it's relating to a past experience, then you think you may need to speak to somebody. There is the National Domestic Abuse Helpline. It's 24/7 and they can offer free, confidential and non-judgmental support. It's 0808 2000 247. 0808 2000 247. Okay, so, right. Where do we begin? I usually start at 5 years old. I was sexually assaulted by a friend of the family. By 8 years old, I was sexually molested by my stepdad, which carried on until I was 14, 15 years old. And between that, I was drug raped by a family friend, and I was also sexually abused by a cousin. So yeah, by the time, during all of that as well, there was severe domestic violence in my home. So my stepdad, who I refer to as my main perpetrator, he, that's one of the ways that he kind of controlled his environment, and he had my mum under so many different levels of violence and abuse, from physical violence, like when I say my mum often had swollen faces, bust up like blood, like literally like really extreme kind of physical violence. I remember one time he hit my mum so badly, one punch, she fell to the ground, and I just remember like we were all scared of him, yeah, but in that moment I kind of lost it. And I remember me and my younger sister, we grabbed one of the pots. This is in Jamaica, by the way. We grabbed one of the pots and we used it and we hit him with it. And then it's like we realized what we did. We ran to our bed, and we basically end up falling asleep underneath our bed. That's how scared we were, not knowing whether our mom's still alive out there or what is happening. So we were in an extremely terrifying situation. He controlled the finances. He was the main income earner. That's one of the reasons why my mom was with him in the first place. So yeah, he controlled the finance. There was emotional abuse. I remember my mom would often say his words is even more painful than his actions, his behavior. So there was psychological abuse, coercive control. There were all these levels and layers of abuse. And by him, having my mom under his full control, he then was able to, have access to me, a small 8 years old child. But just before the situation occurred, when he was able to have access to me, I remember my mom deciding to basically want to, because you know people often say, why don't she leave, and people have got no idea the amount of courage like you could even have the most amount of courage, but if you don't have certain plans and processes in place, then you're basically risking your life and risking the life of your children by trying to break free from this power and control this person have over you. And one day my mom literally just got up and said, come on, we're going. He had gone. And we walked silently, and it was like the happiest day for me because I really wanted this. And then we got to what I call in my book the crossroad. My book, The Lioness Uncaged, this is quite detailed. It's a gripping and it's going into a lot more details. But yes, we got to the crossroad. And it's almost like my mom stood there for a few seconds, and it's like all the rational thinking occurred, like, hold on a minute, you don't have no clothes, hold on a minute, where are you going to sleep, hold on a minute, but you don't have no money, what are the kids going to eat, how are you going to... So it's like all of that kind of took her back over. So all the courage she had just went out the window. And unfortunately, my mum, you know, went back into the situation. My mum ain't the only person like this. Usually, a woman try to escape multiple times before that final break. And my mum was one of those people. That was just her first time. But going back into that abusive home, he suspected what had happened and what this is one of the risks women survivors run when they try to escape. If it's not a successful escape and then they happen to go back, the man, which generally the abuse is usually perpetrated by a man against a woman, the man therefore, you know, he steps up his tactics and his level of control in order to, you know, tighten the gap so that she don't even think about doing that again. And that's exactly what my stepdad did. He moved us around to an even more isolated home, and therefore he had complete access to me without anyone watching. And yeah, it carried on for years. And it's so during that time, like I said, then I had the drug rape by the family friend. Basically, we end up coming here, migrating to the UK in order to escape domestic violence and sexual abuse. I know we were talking about celibacy. See, I'm Jamaican, so we say things differently. But by the time I was, 14, 15 years old coming to this country, I already had like 5 sexual partners. And in all honesty, I did consent to one of them, although technically if you're underage, you can't consent. But voluntarily, I felt like I gave myself to one. So I had all those other multiple partners. And of course, it does massive things to you in the sense that I felt so broken. There were so many times I gave up on life. And how did I even get this bit of energy to even keep going? I've got no idea, because all I remember saying, okay, that's it, I'm done now. And then I sort of picked myself up, and then there was this little bit of hope. For example, when I passed my exams in Jamaica to go from what we call secondary school then to go to college, high school, you have to pass your exams. And throughout all of that was going on, I still passed to go to one of the top highest school in Jamaica, Manning's High School. If you ask anyone about Manning's, where I'm from, they will tell you. And I it's like, how did that? But by being able to do that, it gave me that little bit more hope. And there was another time when I baptized in church for the first time, and that gave me a bit of hope. But then I was like, I baptized under the impression that, yeah, all my sins are washed away, my troubles will be over. And it's like, I went back home to my same troubles. So I was like, oh damn, it's not exactly as it says on the book cover, but there is different things somehow that I kept finding this bit of hope. And but yes, coming away from the abuse in Jamaica, my mom again was absolutely fantastic in the way that she put together this plan and was able to not just rescue her own self without him suspecting anything, but also come in here, working those free jobs and taking her children. She had 6 children by then, and bringing us all here. So for me, it's like coming away from the abuse now. Everyone think, yeah, that's it, you're okay now. For me, that's where my real challenges started. Funny enough, all along, all that was going on. Yes, I was broken, I was confused, I didn't know who I was. Like I had just surrendered myself to whatever the situation was, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll do this, I'll do that. But now I'm away from the abuse. What do I do with myself? How do I how do I relate to people? Like, if a guy says he likes me, what does that actually mean? So I found myself basically down this path of self-sabotage. I became promiscuous, wasn't even the word. Because as far as I was concerned, I would rather consciously give it to you than for you to try and take it from me. I never ever want to experience that. And then I already convinced myself what men were about. Men just want sex. So what do I want? Okay, I wanted material things then. So I'm gonna fool you to let you feel like you're gonna get sex from me, but before that I'm gonna get what I want from it. It was a game. And I became an expert at playing it. That's how I used to make my living as a teenager. Like literally, this is what we call books. We books men.
I heard that word for a long time.
Seriously, I was a professional books. But at the same time, there was no relationship with myself. Did I even hear that terminology? That was like completely non-existent. I didn't have any kind of healthy relationship with a guy. If a guy probably was nice to me, I'd think that he's an idiot. Rather than, he could actually be the kind of guy that I kind of need. No, I'd be like, he's not rough enough, or he's not, tough enough, or... So it was like very, very, very toxic. And out of all of that, it was fear of, being rejected. It was fear of being hurt. It was, I had been broken for so long, and now I'm trying to claim back some power. So anything to make me feel like I'm in control of the situation, rather than feeling like somebody's trying to take my power from me again. So for me, I suppose on a certain level, I became that toxic person that was inflicting, certain types of behavior. Like I would break up with a guy before the guy even know it. My friends will be like, "Don't worry, they'll figure it out."
Wow. Yeah.
Like seriously. But then over time, for me predominantly, it was that day in law class. So I had built up this perfect life. Somehow this absolutely broken child found her way to university, which the kind of life I was living, I was what they call like, a gang member on the street. Like for me, it was just a group of misfits. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, with today's terminology, that's what we would have been called. Street robbery. There was so many things I was involved in, and somehow I managed to leave all of that behind me and find myself at university studying law. Of course, lots of things happened along the way, but here I am this day in my class. And it was when the teacher came in and says, today's lesson is about, and he just wrote it out basically, and he underlined it. I'll never forget even the sound it made. He just said it was about rape. And my entire life, this fake foundation that I had built, that people think I was so perfect. I had 2 cars at university. I was working for the bank. I was earning I had this and that's all it took. Today's lesson is about rape. This is what we call trigger. So trigger is anything that reminds you of any kind of trauma that you've experienced in your past. It could be anything of your 5 senses. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. It can happen to anybody. It can happen at any time. For me, it was in my law class. It happened, and there are different ways our body respond. Not sure I mean, we've got some counsellors here, so we know about the fight, freeze,
Flight,
and
flight.
flee. Yeah, exactly.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. And for me, I experienced all three. Like, I was physically stuck on that chair because I had all the voices telling me, don't move, everyone's gonna know, don't move. So I physically felt like I could not move.
Yes.
Whilst at the same time, so that's the frozen, and I was fighting, like, not straight away, but when I finally got up, that's what I did. I ran.
Oh, wow.
I run and I cry and I break down and I was like a massive mess, and then I had all these war zone thoughts going through my mind, and it was just an absolute mess. But somehow I sat there and I didn't say a word, and no one realized what was going on with me.
Wow. So
And
when you ran, no one chased you?
No one chased me, no one knew anything.
Wow.
And that was a really important part of my journey to where I am now, because back then, part of my lifestyle that was making me be able to function so well was because I was addicted to weed, I was addicted to alcohol. So amongst other mechanisms, like even sex as well, that was one of my mechanisms, knowing who to call at the right time, you know what I mean? But that moment of dipping back into that complete brokenness, because again, within our community, we just don't talk about these kind of things. So imagine all of that happened to such a child, and nobody's ever talked about it. There's been no level of support, nothing. Everyone has just carried on with their lives because now they're out of it.
And this is where we're talking about acting functional in the dysfunction.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
100%. But this moment occurred now, and I was that little girl again.
Yes.
She was so scared, she felt so broken, and it was a lot of, back then, there was a lot of public humiliation as well, predominantly around the rape, where people actually says, oh, you didn't rape you wanted it, and now that your mom find out, that's why you're now calling it that. So there was lots of public humiliation. So now I've got all of that going on. But what was really important for me in this part is that I didn't go to my usual mechanisms. I actually found a counsellor for the first time in my life. My university had counsellors, and I didn't even know that. Well, probably I heard it in some freshers' fair or something. But do you know what I mean? And somehow I found my way to the counselling. You know, I've had like over 10, 15 years of therapy, which has been absolutely remarkable. Absolutely, like I've worked through, I find out so many things, like my stepdad, which again I refer to as my main perpetrator. I find that because he was somebody in power over me, anybody in power, I resent, I react to in a certain way, which is quite unhealthy. I just realized, even in my workplace, there was massive issues in my workplace because if my manager tried to instill certain power, I'm no longer dealing with my manager, I'm dealing with my stepdad. Exactly. So I learned so much through the therapy, and throughout that time as well, I got married. I felt like I met the love of my life. But essentially, even that relationship somewhat was quite toxic as well. I was still wearing a mask. And he had fallen for that mask. So then as I'm healing and I'm now starting to remove layers and layers of the mask, he don't know who this person is anymore.
So how was the person with the mask?
The person with the mask had on a lot of weave. She was very artificial. So yeah, she got her nails done every 2 weeks. She had on the lashes. She had on the fake hair. It was like, it was about doing what I want kind of thing. And he was happy to be like that, to serve that person basically. He liked her exterior. So therefore he was kind of happy to do what she wants. But that's not even sustainable, because you have to live your life for what makes you happy rather than serving somebody else. So after a while, he wanted to live his life for how he wanted to, but I think what kind of trigger him, you might say, is because I was no longer that person that
would tolerate.
No, I was no longer that person that he was happy to serve. So then it made him now started looking at himself and realized that he weren't even doing what he wanted to do in the first place. So things just got really, really toxic. And yes, that I'm now like separated from in my marriage because it got really, really toxic.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you share with your husband that what you had been through?
Yes, I did. I felt like because I was already on that journey when I met him, as opposed to previous exes, and oh my days, this is so embarrassing. Funny enough, one of my ex reached out to me today.
Ooh. Oh dear.
And he was like, "What? You didn't tell me that you went through all of
That's
that." I know, right?
That's
So
powerful.
it's a bit of an awkward conversation there, because back then, obviously, I'm like, do you think I was even trying to admit it to myself? Moreover, to speak it out loud to anybody else. We don't even talk about it in our own family.
That's right.
And you think I'm going to come to you and say, what? Oh, because you thought we had a bond. Well, I didn't have a bond with myself. So,
It's important.
like, these things are so deep rooted, and I'm sorry, but sometimes if a man's got too much ego, he's not going to get that. Because he just thinks that, you know, there's no excuse, you shouldn't tell him, and then it's no longer about you and your experiences, it's about their own ego. So, but no, by the time I kind of met my husband, I was already on that journey. So it was very important. In fact, it was probably one of the first things, because you kind of go from one extreme to the other, don't you? It's like from not saying nothing to be like, oh yeah, by the way, and so you better take me now or go. So yeah, like I told him everything, and he was just like, no, he loves me, essentially loved what he was seeing. I was a size 8 to 10 with the little tiny waist and the big ass and hips, and you know, like I don't blame him, to be honest. Kind of don't. You know what I mean? Like, yes, so he was like, no, he was fully committed, and to be honest, I did feel like I was able to talk to him about stuff as they were happening. But I feel like when I felt like I couldn't talk to him anymore was when something really important happened in 2015. So I received another trigger. So it was June 2015, never forget. And pardon me, my stepdad was an older man for my mum anyways. So he's got children around my mum's age. And his children in Jamaica had put up his picture celebrating Father's Day. I thought, no fucking day. Pardon my French. Seriously, I was like, no way. So without even thinking, this is again how triggers can make you react. There was no process of thought, so I just copied that picture on my phone. And to have your perpetrator's picture on your phone, that's huge. But that's what I did. I copied this picture on my phone and I posted my own with my own caption, labeling him a child molester. And yes.
It was on social media?
Yes, on Facebook.
And did your mum know? And
yes.
Your mum knew.
So my mum knew, because at the time I was having some belly aches as well, like real extreme belly aches. So I had to go to the doctors. And that's how my mum ended up finding out. But no, like generally, like there was maybe like a handful of people. Handful is probably still like an exaggeration. Like there was only very few people who knew. So by me, you had the whole family that like came to my house and tried to tell me how they think I should have dealt with it or shouldn't have dealt with it, which for me is like a complete no-go. But what was very inspirational from that, which led to me creating the Lioness Circle, was when I started receiving messages from women and girls survivors all over the world. That's for me, exactly. I saw myself running a child abuse campaign.
Yes.
I was doing my own research and just posting, like, all the information is there.
Yeah.
So I was like just researching, educating myself, and just sharing the knowledge, which essentially was like a campaign. I had all these women and girls messaging me saying how inspirational I was. Some of them was asking me for advice, and some I felt like, yeah, I can advise, but then others I was like, I don't know, but do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what you should do. Like. So I ended up putting myself on a number of domestic abuse courses, so that I was able to, you know, have more kind of open conversation, especially like, you know, when it gets extremely sensitive. And throughout all of that, I was like, it was fantastic to feel like I could be myself. I could be free. I could be inspiring other. Like that is huge. I was this broken 5 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old child. Like broken ain't even the word. And now here I am. Oh my days. So that felt amazing. But I was like, if I could just have a space, like, because I was still going to my own therapy sessions as well. And my therapist is absolutely amazing. Sorry, darling. But she was absolutely amazing. And each session I came out like learning that little bit more and that little bit more. But I still felt like that was the little secret room. Like, that you go and talk about those disgusting things that you can't really talk about anywhere else kind of thing. It's like icky kind of things. It's like, leave it all for that room kind of. And it's like, no, I wanted to be more free within my life. I wanted, if I'm with a partner, because with my husband, after I came out like that, he felt affected 100%.
Yeah. It would.
So this just resonates with what Dana was saying about the carrying.
Yes.
That your partner, carrying.
So
he wasn't able to carry you.
I'm so glad that you're bringing him that back in here.
On a public
So
stage.
being able to handle your, so I didn't go into that as much, but you have to be able to handle your past, present, and where you're going.
Right, but this is it though, for me and where I'm coming from in the kind of more holistic perspective, I don't believe one person is here to serve all those needs. I believe he served this purpose. For the period we were together, before things started getting toxic, I was happy. It may not have been happiness to what I now know happiness should be, but from where I was at the time, I was happy. And it's because of that happiness and nurturing that I felt, I experienced, that was part of my healing. That was part of my building block to get me to where I am now. So I'm not expecting one person to serve all these needs. Every single person that comes in your life, they serve a purpose. They have a part to play, and it's understanding. Like my mum, for example, like as you can imagine, like I've had a very rocky relationship with my mum, and I'm very grateful that things are getting better and better. But there was a period in my life where I wanted my mum to be everything. I wanted her to hug me and cuddle me and tell me it will be all right. I wanted her to feel my pain. I know she's got her pain as well, but I wanted me and her, just like I always say, I wanted to have these open, and I wanted, and it's like, girl, you need to check yourself. You can't expect one, because everybody have their own challenges. Everybody have their own challenges. And for me, it's like understanding what role people play in your life, understanding what role you play in different people's lives as well. And I realized why I wanted my mum in my life. And once I got to that core, family means a great deal to me. And the person that birthed me, whether we have the best relationship or not, for me, that means a lot to me. So it's like, okay, if this is why I wanted my mom in my life, then it was about understanding then, in terms of her capacity and her restrictions, how can I receive what I need, but with having those boundaries in place?
That's what I was going to ask you.
That's right.
What would you say to those who are watching? How do you place those boundaries? Well, you just answered it perfectly.
I
Just
mean,
knowing how people can serve you working with those.
Right, and it goes back to self-knowledge.
Yes.
It goes back to your point, to your spoken word about digging deep. Like many of us, we operate, I see like an ocean, and many of us operate on the surface, and nobody looks beneath. Even this table, it's all about what's on here rather than what's underneath here.
What's holding it up?
Exactly. Like we all have to do that self-reflection. We all have to do that self. For me, my journey so far, it brought me to a point where I realized that I'm not just here for myself. I'm here for a much bigger purpose. I understand now that my challenges were part of this purpose.
That's right.
I don't regret anything that happened to me, because if all of that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. I love me right now, and I wouldn't want me to be any other way. In fact, the only thing that can get better is me becoming a better version tomorrow than I am today. That is the only thing for me. So yes, like I don't regret anything that's happened, but it's because of that journey. And from that little girl sitting in the well, big girl, but from that girl sitting in my lecturer's classroom and saying rape, and the way I reacted and the pain, you know, they say when your brain is the pain will attack it, the tension, the stress attacks it, but it's not built to maintain it. So then it gets passed down in your chest, but then it's not built to maintain it. And this is literally what like happened to me. I remember the head pounding. I remember the heart. Literally, I remember saying to my housemates at the time, it literally feels like there's a knife that's just stuck in here and just can't, like, pain upon pain. I'm not saying everyone's pain's like that, but that's how I'm articulating what I experienced. But I don't regret it. Let me tell you, in terms of relationships, so me and my husband's been separated for 1.5 years, coming up to 2 years, and of course there was the period when we were together where there was no sex. So I say at least 2 years since we hadn't had sex, and I hadn't had sex. And I was more like, I was so focused on my own journey and my own growth. There was so much I was learning, because the person that went into that marriage was no longer that person. So it was like finding this person over again. My parenting skills were changing. How I relate to my siblings was so much what had changed. So the way I'm perceiving the work I'm doing and the fulfillment I'm getting, and it's just the layers and layers. And for me, I was just excited enough to just being on that journey. Not to say, not to say if a nice guy approached me, I would have said no. But a nice guy did approach me, and I just dealt with it quite casually, like, oh yeah, it's nice to meet you, thank you, goodbye, sir. And it was like, I wasn't ready. And not being ready for me meant that I didn't have to put myself in any compromising situation. And that was okay, because I know I was on a journey, and I was happy to allow the journey to, take its course. But then after that, so just over the Christmas period, so then I met a guy, and within a week we slept together. And there was a lot of beating up on myself, because I'm like, how could I have allowed that to happen to me? And then I felt right back in that victimhood. That same victimhood of what I've been, my default self. I felt, oh, he did this to me. And because I wouldn't have allowed it, it was him that tricked me. And I beat up on myself for allowing him. Look how far I've come. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm sure. And then I still allow a guy to just come up to me, and within a week I start, what? Kind of thing. But then, with every experience, and everybody's experiences are different. All I say is mind your own damn business. So me minding my own damn business and realizing what was the purpose of this experience. It was to teach me more lessons I needed to learn for the next level in my growth. I realized that part of what had chipped away within me is my inability to properly like speak up for myself. Yes, I've gained my voice again, but there's levels.
That's right.
Yes, I've gained my confidence again, but there's levels.
That's right.
And the level that I was at, I needed to be more bold about who I am
That's right.
and what I wanted. And that guy came into my life. I knew deep down, I didn't really want it to be with that guy, but I allowed him to talk his talk. And I didn't for one moment think, did I want to be with you? No, I just allowed him to talk his talk, and before you know it, we're sleeping together. And then I'm going to blame him. He didn't really do nothing that I wasn't allowing him to do. So I had to take responsibility and accountability for that, rather than dipping back into that victimhood. Because as you're saying, sister, it's about being. No, this is very controversial, but I'm at a point where I realize nobody ain't doing nothing to you. It's for me, because I subscribe to the art of allowing. So, and you talk about manifestation. So whatever you put your focus on, that's kind of what you're bringing into your circumstances. And whatever you bring into your circumstances is a reflection of where you are. So when you see that, don't beat upon yourself. Don't stay stuck in the negative emotions of what it reveals to you. Try and understand, what does that mean for me and where I am now compared to where I'm trying to go to. And when I realized that about this guy, I stopped crying. Because I was bawling. And even like my friends, I was bawling to them too. But I was like, girl, you got this. You take what you need to take, just like any other situation. Take what you need to take and keep it stepping. And that was it, really. But one of the things that's been like very crucial in what I teach these, like some of the workshops I run, is about my 5-step process to overcoming challenges. I believe whatever your challenge is, mine, I just talked about sexual abuse. Somebody else's challenge could be, I don't know, they broke their leg. Another person's challenge could be celibacy. Whatever your challenge is, I believe that it's about understanding, first of all, acknowledging you do have a challenge and you want something to change. Because if you're not aware of it and if you're not willing to want to change, then it doesn't matter. Like, God could come down, as they say, and and you still won't really take it too much on board. So you have to come to that realization yourself.
That's right.
Then once you come to that realization, it's about facing it.
Yes.
And facing it involves, this is where you go in that core. You understand about your thoughts, your emotions, your automatic responses. You understand, because what tends to happen is from the moment we've had an initial, say, an extreme challenge happen, generally in our childhood at some point, then the way we respond to it, which is not really us saying, oh yeah, this is how we're going to respond. The body just naturally responds in a certain way. And then after that, whatever then reminds us of that moment, it builds, and that becomes our default system to react in terms of the thoughts and the feelings around it. So for me, understanding understanding your thoughts and emotions and behavior is part of understanding your default settings, which is necessary for facing, sorry, my mum was just calling me, probably calling me to get my son, but I will speak to her later. Which is necessary for facing the challenge. This is probably going to be the most challenging part of the 5-step process. Facing it. It can leave you vulnerable, feeling vulnerable. It can leave you feeling quite hurt, like you're digging up some real hardcore stuff here, and a lot of the times you may need professional support to assist you with that. And if that's the case, I work alongside counselors where I'm like, can I hook you? Yeah, exactly. But don't shy away. Get the support you need. Because then once you're able to face it, you're able to let it go.
That's right.
When I used to have nightmares, like extreme. This was part of the impact on me, and my nightmares. I used to wake up. Oh, sorry, I just thought of something. No, but
nightmares.
yeah, sorry, it's the time I realised. You know when you said 15 minutes, you meant 15 minutes of me. So I still kept talking, but you meant 15 minutes.
That's alright, go.
Oh my days. Okay,
So you're wrapping it up and then Davina will speak. Conclusion.
Basically, once you face it, then you're able to let it go. And once you let it go, you're able to then make space for something new.
That's right.
It's like you're letting go of the unwanted to make space for the wanted. And then you basically just practice your focus on what you actually want. And the more you basically do it, then the easier it gets to deal with future challenges. But yes, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Very powerful.
Very powerful.
Because it's two views. So you witnessed your mum going through domestic violence, and then you became a victim of that as well.
Yes.
And then obviously for the molestation and stuff. So it's very, very deep. Very, very, very deep. But the most important thing to take from it is that there will always be a trigger, but what you do with that trigger, because she could have seen the rape and ran away and gone back as business as usual. But for her, that was the turning point that she said, you know what, I need help. So if you're at that stage where you know, I've seen so many triggers, I know I need to go counselling, or I know I need to get some type of support, even to join the circle, join a support group, but I'm just trying to shy away from that because I want to be that brave person. She had 2 cars, she was working in the bank. In the world, in the natural, she looked okay, but she was struggling. It just took 4 letters, 4 letters, 1 word that said, you know what, enough is enough. So if that's you, please do get the support that you need. Don't stay by yourself. Don't isolate yourself, because that is what mental illness is aimed to do, to keep you isolated, to keep you dysfunctional, to keep you away from people, and to just act in that dysfunction. But wholeness, as I say, is for you.
And also, we've got 2 counsellors here, so even in this time, this is not even a plug, this is a genuine, we have 2 counsellors on these panels, so can you just give your websites, so people can actually reach out to you if they feel like they need someone to speak to.
Okay, so that's 3amcounselling.com.
Yeah, and that's www.timingcounselling.com.
Cool. So Davina, mental abuse and abandonment.
Wow, I think there's something that Lioness Tamara that really stuck with me. He said there's levels to your confidence.
Yes.
There's level to this, and something just made me think. You might see us here and think, okay, we're at this level, we're at this place, but no, we are just here to show your journey. You know, because sometimes you can see someone and you think, we're still, even when this is done, we're still on a journey. Yeah, so I just wanted to really put that out there. But and another thing I want to put out there, because let's be real, I may be a married woman, because sometimes I get digs that you don't understand. But
that's right.
What I'm trying to say is that being married does not mean you are complete. Does not mean you've reached your level of wholeness. Because reality, the first relationship is with you. A man or a woman does not define you. You define you. And this society, especially now Instagram, social media, if you're not married, if you're not this relationship goal or this goal, the only goal is you go. You know, that is the only goal. So I really, before I start, really want to push that out there. You are always in a relationship with yourself. Without a man, you are always in a relationship in yourself, and it's about bettering on a daily basis the relationship with you. Because when you enter a relationship. Who that shows up is you.
That's right.
All your faults show up.
Yeah.
All your insecurities show up. So the more you work on your insecurity, the less you have to work in a relationship. And then you get mad when a relationship broke down because you didn't want to work on you. So yeah, just wanted to get that out there. I feel like it needs to, be in there.
But you can date yourself. Date yourself.
Date yourself.
Take those movie nights with yourself. Next thing,
Yeah.
Netflix
I
and
do
I do
that.
that.
I do
Moving
that.
out.
That's exactly
Date yourself.
You must date yourself.
Date
I love it.
yourself.
Date yourself.
As you guys date yourself, do you like yourself?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
You're fine.
I went to do these rendezvous, like on Valentine's Day. I took myself on a rendezvous. I went to a new area in London. I took a walk by the river, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then I went home and made myself a lovely meal, and then I watched some shows on
All right,
Netflix.
and in doing
Yes.
that,
Beautiful.
you no longer really require
Yes,
a
someone
man
else.
to do that.
Yes.
You see that because what? You're dating you.
Yeah.
You're dating you.
Yeah.
And not even that now. You now set undercover, you set up a higher standard because
That's
you're
right.
thinking, I'll be London Eye.
Yeah,
If I
I
don't.
That's the thing about self-love, right? Once you know how to show yourself
Yes.
love, you set the standard.
Standard.
So anyone that comes in your life, if they're not giving you at least that benchmark, get out.
Yes.
I love it. Yes.
Sorry. You got a bit carried away. But yeah, so I'm basically here to talk about emotional abandonment and mental health. And I just really, I had notes, but you know, notes is notes. I'll go what is being laid on me. One thing I've learned is that our behaviour as adults comes from when we was a child. Because I think sometimes we can get into adulthood and we become very hard on ourselves. We beat up ourselves for some of our actions and some of our behaviours, not knowing that it comes from our childhood. Because abandonment is a fear of losing something. And sometimes we've lost something maybe we've lost a father, maybe we've lost a mother, maybe we've lost a sister, maybe we've lost education. We've lost something along the way that causes us to be in a distressed state. And then because society puts this thing that when you're in a relationship, you're whole. So sometimes we can be on a rat race, trying to fill that abandonment in a relationship. And then because we try to feel it, we accept anything, anyone. And even if the guy says hello, you say, hello, was it me you're looking at? It's true. Because we have lost something.
Sorry,
Is it me? No, because we have lost something in our childhood, and we're trying to recreate that comfort in our adulthood. So what I'm saying is that when you get in a relationship and and I'm not justifying crazy behaviour, don't get me wrong, but when you see yourself when that guy doesn't ring, because I used to do this, I would go and buy £1 SIM cards and I would change my number. But it wasn't that I wanted him to call, I wanted to feel whole. I wanted to have that feeling of abandon. I wanted this to be filled, even though I know that individual. Even though I know that individual can't feel, but the state of being alone, the state of a man not even touching me, penetrates me, but not even that, it zooms me back to when my mum weren't there, to when my dad weren't there, to when I got bullied at school. So what I'm saying, the point that I'm trying to make, that when we stand here as adults, be gentle on yourself, because some of these things is to do with you when you was a child. Because sometimes we are bruising an adult when we need to heal the child, and that can cause a cycle and a cycle of where we're entering situations, placing ourselves in situations that we know does not fulfill our need, that hole, that void. And that's why I started to say that your relationship with you is the most important, the most crucial, it's like the foundation of, because even take take it out of a boyfriend or husband and wife relationship. When you're at work, you have the desire for everyone to like you. And then if you say, oh, they were talking about me, no, they were focusing on their work. But because you desire to not feel a void, you think everyone is against you. And then you do things that are not out of, you're not operating out of your functioning self. You're operating out of your dysfunctional self. So you're doing crazy behavior. But the sad thing is, even when you're doing that crazy behavior, you don't even have the reasoning to stop and say that behavior is funny because you're so dysfunctional.
It becomes your norm.
It becomes your norm.
It
becomes your norm, and
you're not aware of it.
Yeah, you're not aware of it. But that's why I'm saying some things are just your childhood, and sometimes we need to stop. And we need to heal that childness. Because when it's all said and done, sometimes that child is playing rampant in that relationship. Let's look at a child. A child wants attention. A child wants love. A child wants reassurance. A child wants security. A child wants food. Them simple things. But if you never got that as a child, imagine as an adult how more you're going to want it, how more you're going to drive for it, which means lowering who God has really created you for, just to be healed by a man or a woman. But no man can heal you. No man can make you whole. I'm telling you, because I always say, listen, you can be married and you can lay in that bed and you're still as lonely as you was, and you sit there. And then what you do, you see that man, you try to find another man. Because the issue is not if you're married. The issue is if you love you. That's what matters. Because even if you are dysfunctional and you enter a marriage and you're not functioning, you probably could end up breaking down that marriage. So what marriage, the thing that you've been craving for, no longer lasts.
It's not sustainable.
And another thing I always say, everyone can have a wedding. That's easy talk. I will find you a man and I will pay for your wedding. That's not the issue. But not everyone can have a marriage. Because not everyone wants to put their self aside and deal with their issues. So as a single person, the best gift, the best wedding gift you can give to yourself is you. Ain't no ring, ain't no man, it is you.
That's right.
So, in saying that, I want to bring it back down to conclude before I go on to the mental health. Can
I just ask you something? Can you give, so those who are watching out there and they're hearing what you're saying, you mentioned something about childhood, and childhood is the basis, the foundation for your behaviour in adulthood. What practical advice would you give someone who has gone through a level of dysfunctionality throughout the duration of their life? What advice, practical tips and steps would you give that person in terms of just making those steps to make that change or to make those?
I think it's very similar to like what Lioness said. You need to, number one, acknowledge that I am broken. Acknowledge that I've done some things and it's caused me to be in a place where I feel that I have no self-esteem or no confidence. And I think as well, practically go and seek counselling, or go and speak to someone that you know you can trust. And also as well, for me as a Christian, go to God, go back to the Word, pray, ask God, show me what has happened that has caused me to be here. And also as well, I think when you do something, be gentle on yourself. Forgive yourself. You're still human. You're not a robot where you just run by mechanics. You are a human and you are going to make mistakes. But it's okay. But it's what you do after you've made the mistake. And I think just have that positive inner dialogue with yourself. For example, actually, I slept with a man after 1 week. Okay. But you know what? I'm going to do better next time. And even if it means you upgrade and you do 3 months, and the next, and it's true. And then next is the next is marriage. Sometimes you have to be realistic.
That's true.
Because if you say the next man I meet, I'm going to wait till I'm married, and then you feel, how bad are you going to feel? Then you're going to go back. You say, I'll make it 3 months. And just do little baby steps like that. And I think as well, like as a child, you learn behaviour. So as an adult, you are still learning. You can still learn new behaviours. Surround yourself with people that that have gone through things and on the journey of coming out of it. Surround yourself, read books, YouTube, just find what lights your fire. Everyone has a different thing that lights your fire.
I agree with every single one of those points that you've made, because I think I probably use them as well. And these are things that I also encourage the women at the Lioness Circle. I think one of the only thing I'd throw into that is sometimes we are surrounded by so much that's going on around us, especially living in London, busy lifestyle and all. But if we can take some time out to quieten the mind in just peace and silence, and we're receiving a lot. We're just not aware that we're receiving because of the distractions. So if you're just know that something's not right, maybe just take some time out for you.
Yeah, and I think in saying that as well, stop and heal. Because I think sometimes something can happen, and because we're so busy, because we're either a mum or on the go, we just keep going. And then it takes, like you said, that rum thing. In law, you're there thinking, I'm coming there to better myself. But because you didn't stop and heal, boom. And sometimes it's the smallest of things. You buy orange instead of banana, you start switch.
Literally.
And you start, because it's the smallest things that will KO you out.
We put a girl in hospital because the girl said, your mum.
Yeah. So it's the smallest
thing.
Yeah. So in rounding up, I just want to say that be gentle on yourself. Some things come from your childhood, so don't beat up the adult you. Seek help, find a counsellor, find time for yourself, date yourself, and you are. And I'm gonna keep saying it. You are not valid based on if you are married. You are not valid based on if you're on a relationship. Because sometimes, as women, we are very nurturers. We want to nurture. You want to hear the sweet nothings. You want to hear all of that. But you can tell yourself you are beautiful, and let it just reside, and then do a little spin in the mirror. You don't need no man to tell you. And the funny thing is, hear the joke with it. Sometimes when you have a man, you have to dress up to even hear the compliment. Brethren, tell yourself when you wake up in the morning, you are beautiful. With your stretch marks and everything.
You're no makeup.
Alarm, and I've got alarm right throughout the day that says you are amazing, you are powerful, you are amazing. So yes.
And can I just say one practical thing again for the guys, people are watching, because it's really important. Counselling has a perception to be quite expensive. So as two counsellors, do you guys offer low cost rates for those who are not in a financial position, a certain amount of money per hour?
Yeah, definitely. Because my thing is, the more the world is whole, the better. And that's why I done it, because I know black people, they don't talk. They need to talk.
Especially in the Caribbean community and the African as well. They just don't believe in counselling, and one of the things, especially in the church world, they say,
it's all spiritual. It's all spiritual.
And I always take it, because people, we like Bible. So I said, okay, let me take you to Bible. 1 Thessalonians 5:23 says, we are spirit, soul and body. So the church deals with the spiritual things. If you're sick in your body, you go to the doctor. So the soul, you go to a psychiatrist, you go to a psychologist. So you want to go to a lawyer. You want to go to a lawyer if you have a dental issue. So you figure out your issue and find a person that's qualified to deal with your issue.
And don't wait for yourself to be broken. You reach that stage. Any type of trigger, anything like that, just make sure that you seek help. So we want just encouragement from each one of you before you go, including a reminder of the book launch. So we're going to just go, Dana, Kim, Lioness, and Trina, and we are done.
Okay. So I just want to encourage you, just to love on you. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. I love what Kimberly said. Whether you're a virgin or you're not, whether you've been having sex or you've decided to stop having sex, just know that your worth is in Jesus Christ. I'm talking to those who are believers. If you're not a believer, you know what? The best thing you can do is get to know Jesus Christ, because He will fulfill, He will complete you, and there's healing and wholeness in Him. So just remember that you are accepted, you are loved, and you are chosen by God. So your worth does not come from man or what they think about you. Your worth comes from the Word of God and what God says about you.
I think for me it's about understanding that you are a holistic being. So you're spiritual, you're mental, you're emotional, your physical. So it's about addressing all of those areas in your life. Don't just dismiss one part. So for example, with the spiritual side, you know, have that relationship with God. I'm a Christian myself, and I'm telling you, that relationship with God is what keeps me. It's that foundation that keeps me. But at the same time, I also know that mentally I need some support. So I've got a counsellor that I go to, and then also being a beautician, I take time to understand myself physically. You know, so it's also about that, understanding that. And then in terms of the emotional side, read the right books, go on YouTube, type in, you know, how to strengthen my emotional well-being. So you're actually addressing all areas of yourself, and understand that you get into, it's a journey. It's not an instant quick fix. You're going to make mistakes, right? You will make mistakes. And one thing that Dr. Heather says to me, which is deep, she said to me, when you make mistakes or something happens or something triggers, it's not the person. What is it in you that needs to be dealt with? It's a reflection. It's a mirror. It's a mirror.
Yeah.
So what is it about you now that situation is revealing that you need to deal with? So that's sort of my encouragement.
Woo! I mean, whatever your experiences are, wherever you are in your journey, there is always basically a way forward, and basically having the right kind of skills and strategies can help us get to wherever we need to be. So we were talking about skills and strategies. You know, take some time out, try to understand what's going on throughout the body, the mind. Take some time to understand your own thoughts, maybe. Spend time in meditation. I do that a lot. Some people may be affirmating prayer. Gratitude. It's, you know, being grateful for just waking up each day. Celebrating the smaller wins before you can get to the bigger wins. Journaling. It's priceless. But being able to process what's already happened, where you are and where you're heading to, can absolutely work miracles. And if you need help, you're not alone. We all need help at some point in our journey. So reach out.
Yep. And I'm going to keep saying it till he gets out there. If you do not have a man, it's okay. That's the first thing. But secondly, your relationship starts with you.
Yes.
You are always in a relationship with you.
Yes.
So pamper you,
Yes.
look after you, date you, do everything that you want you to do. And my third point is, you are not your circumstance.
Yes.
You are not your mistakes.
No.
You are not your situation.
No.
You are not your experience. It happened to you, but that does not make you you.
Doesn't define
And
you.
life is a journey.
Yes.
Hiccups are gonna come, but
Yes.
keep pushing, keep going.
Your mental health matters. Friday, 13th March 2020. Join the book launch, Lioness Uncaged.
And Survivors Thriving event. Yes. My book's coming, The Lioness Uncaged.
God bless you guys. Thanks
So
for
one
listening.
minute, hold on. I've got another thing. You see, I need to say this as well. So Dr. Heather is also this because this is also part of practical tools.